I'm Nikki Gamble from Just Imagine. Thank you for joining me for the first of our Reading Journey book recommendations. This replaces our former Book Breeze recommendations and ties in more closely with our Reading Journey project and the Reading Journey digital reading journal. However, we hope the book recommendations will be useful to all teachers, librarians and nursery workers, regardless of whether your school currently uses the Reading Journey or not. We have changed the criteria for book selection to suit the purpose of the Reading Journey. So rather than presenting one big list, we've organised the presentation into 8 shorter videos covering the school years. Secondly, for the first time, we're working with the data generated by the Reading Journey app, which provides anonymised information about what children are reading. With thousands of books being uploaded to children's bookshelves every week, we're developing a comprehensive picture of children's reading choices. Together with pupil interviews, these provide valuable insight into children's reading preferences and motivations to read. So, in our quarterly selections, you will find books chosen primarily to appeal to children. However, we've also used our expertise to curate collections that nudge children to broaden their reading repertoires and make adventurous reading choices. Our position is to value children's reading preferences while also opening up the world of reading by offering choices that may not be as visible through mass media channels, supermarkets, or the high street. Each selection includes a variety of genre and formats that will suit children with different levels of reading attainment, in line with the general spread you would expect within a year group. There will be 4 collections released each year: the summer term, the new school year, the autumn term, and the spring term. Together, these will provide 40 new, recently published books each year to keep your book stock relevant and up to date. Of course, you do not need to be using the Reading Journey to find these packs useful. So, without further ado, let's have a look at the first selection. On the left, you can see our summer collection for Year 3. These books are mainly intended for independent reading, though you will want to give book introductions before adding them to your reading area. The Reading Journey app is particularly well suited to children making independent book choices, as it's intended to support reading for pleasure and the development of reading identity. Year 3 is an important transitional year in this respect, as children are generally more independent word readers, but need plenty of reading material at the right level to ensure they don't stall in making progress. I'll present each title in turn in a moment, but first, if you want to purchase these class sets, use the QR code on screen to purchase them at our discounted price. Schools can pay by invoice with the authority to purchase or by credit card. Our first book is The Lost Robot by Jo Todd Stanton, published by Flying Eye. It's one of my favourite books from the Reading Journey selections this summer. While we have selected it here as an independent reading choice, there's a depth to the narrative and visual storytelling that also makes it a good choice for sharing with a book club or for whole class English lessons. Let's have a closer look. Now, I am super excited to be sharing with you Jo Todd Stanton's The Lost Robot. I think it's one of my top picks for this term in the Reading Journey selections. It's in hardback, and you'll notice that this isn't the same as the front cover on the slides that I was sharing. This is underneath the book jacket, and I just had to share it with you because it's simply glorious. And there's so much creative work that you could do if you were sharing this with a class. I'd be making these robots and making movable parts, all sorts of things, interchangeable parts maybe. but it does relate to the story. So let's open up the book and have a look. Look at that brilliant landscape. That is the landscape of a rubbish dump, and you can see how many things are being thrown away, and these huge mountains that are being created. This is going to be the main character in our story. What can you tell about this character from their body language? So the story starts deep in the heart of a rubbish dump. A little robot woke up. And we have these sequential images that we often find in Jo Todd Stanton's work. Great, actually, if you're going to do some storytelling with children, and supportive for writing too. It couldn't remember how it got there, but it knew that this wasn't where it was supposed to be. So it started to walk. We can follow the trajectory as it makes its way from the top of the rubbish tip. And where do we think it's going? So it passes this lady here. She's not mentioned, at least not in this part of the story. It walked under toppling towers of rubbish, through decaying machines, and over abandoned spaceships. What do we think this woman is doing with this baby strapped to her back? Until it came to a wall. In the wall was a hole, and on the other side of the hole there were people. Big contrast in mood between these two pictures here. The robot remembered it used to have a person, but its person wasn't here. Or here? The robot couldn't remember any of these people. Then the robot saw a picture. And the more it looked, the more it remembered. So there's an advert here for a Mio, and the boy in the advert reminds the robot of his previous owner. I'm not going to read all the way through the story. I'm going to leave the delights of that and the discovery of what happens next for you to find out. Ultimately, this is a reflective story about finding where you belong and the value in objects that transcend the throwaway culture. For Year 3, we've chosen the latest pizza and taco book, Too Cool for School, by Stephen Shaskan, published in the UK by Puffin. Good comedy duos need contrasting personalities. In this book, Taco, the round character, is the follower, while the sharper, pointier Pizza takes the lead. That is until a new kid, BLT, comes into town. Pizza and Taco try to impress the new kid with their coolness, but it doesn't quite come off. There's a twist when BLT's older brother turns up to pick him up after school. Perhaps BLT isn't so cool after all. There's minimal text in these books. Much of the humour is conveyed by what the words don't say rather than what they do say. This would be a valuable thing to chat about in informal book talk sessions. Ice Age Alarm is the new adventure in the Amelia Cheeseheart Investigates series from Kat Weldon and Nini Lonergan, published by Guppy Books. Amelia's sidekick is a spider called Webster. They live inside a model hot air balloon in the museum's gift shop. When the museum is closed, the fun begins. Jumping aboard her model aeroplane, Amelia and Webster set off to visit their friends in other parts of the museum. On this slide, you can see some of the places that they have visited, and you can read about these adventures in their other books. But in this book, we're off to the Ice Age, where Amelia meets the legendary explorer Stilton Jones. A warning written on the wall of the exhibit tells them that this is a new mystery to be solved. The book also includes some fact spreads about the Ice Age and Amelia Earhart. Gently humorous and featuring endearing characters, this series is likely to appeal to fans of Sarah McIntyre and Philip Reeves's Adventure Mice series. So there are plenty of choices between these two series that will help Year 3 readers achieve plenty of reading miles while having heaps of fun. Bad United by Louise Forshaw and published by Little Tiger Press is about a football team with a difference. In this story, the bad team have been invited to play a friendly match against semi-pro leaguers, the Unicorn Roamers. They are Hoof's former team. On the front jacket, you can see Hoof, the unicorn, a current member of the bad team. Coach Serena isn't available to coach the team for this upcoming match, so she leaves that to their captain, Bones. And you can see Bones is on the front jacket riding Hoof. Let's take a look inside. So here we have all the team members on this page here. The manager is called Serena. Hoof we've seen on the book cover. Bones, I'm bad to the bone, says the captain. Annette is a spider. We've got Rex, we've got Phantasma, Tinkerbell and Bolt. So those are Bad United players. So this is all in a black and white illustration, comic style. And as you can see, it's divided up into short chapters. This is a series to recommend to football fans and children who find too much text on the page daunting, but enjoy reading the pictures. Tiny Dogs, The Sleepover Surprise by Rose Liu is published by Puffin. Bee and her friend Daisy are so excited about their first sleepover. They have plans for matching pyjamas, games and snacks to share, all designed for two. Meanwhile, Bee's tiny dogs are planning their own sleepover in the garden. Let's have a look and see what happens. As we open the book, we have a page here where the tiny dogs are introduced. We have Willow, the pack leader, Pepper, the cheeky pup, Clover, who's shy and sweet, and Sorrel, who's a wise old dog. These 4 tiny dogs and the hands belong to Beatrix Bloom, the little girl in this story. And there she is. So only Beatrix can see the tiny puppies and her grandfather, so they share this secret. And in this story, they're preparing for Beatrix's first ever sleepover. So if I just move on to chapter 2, you can see that it's written in shortish chapters, a little bit longer than some of the other books that we've looked at in this age group. What happens at this particular sleepover is that unexpectedly they have to include a third friend who they weren't expecting. So Bee and Daisy have to learn to get along with Raven. Dungeon Runners Level 4 Fang Attack, written by Kieran Larwood, illustrated by Joe Todd Stanton and published by Nosy Crow, is the 4th book in this series. And while it's written so that it can be read as a standalone, children's reading experience will be enhanced by reading through the levels as the game progresses. It's immediately evident that this story series is inspired by computer games such as RuneScape and Final Fantasy. I like this opening spread. As you can see, the game is being introduced by two commentators. Readers have to make an inference connecting what they see on these two facing pages. Dirk the orc is holding the mic, but we only see the feet of the giant Jenna. On the facing page, we have the commentators' talking heads. These highly illustrated pages are interspersed with longer narrative pages which feature black and white illustrations throughout. In Fang Attack, Kit and his trusty teammates Sandy and Thorn are heading to the land of vampires for their most fearsome test yet. In a dungeon that is deadlier than anything they've faced before, they'll take on monsters, hunt for treasure, and crack codes. But can they make it to the finish, or will this be game over? These adventures are, as Frank Cottrell Boyce has written in the Sunday Times, funny and exciting. Marty Moose the Great Stampede is the second book in the Marty Moose series by Claire Powell, published by Walker Books. Marty Moose is a post mouse, and it's the first day of the annual Fastest Feathers race in Little Ditch. But Marty Moose can't stop to join in the fun. He's got a very important parcel to deliver. The prize is a beautiful shining golden egg, and it's got to reach the finish line before the contestants do. But there's a twist in the tale. Marty and his sidekick, a bonkers bunny called Nibbles, have to contend with ferret bandits who want the prize for themselves, and a pair of cheating ducks, in a terrible case of foul play. It's a recipe for hilarity and enjoyment. Animal stories rank very highly in reading choices of children in Year 3. A Chick Called Charm by Helen Peters, illustrated by Ellie Snowden, and published by Nosy Crow, is a perfect choice for animal lovers. A little chick is abandoned by her mother and left for dead after a terrible accident. Jasmine rescues the tiny bird and nurses her back to health, but she is again rejected by her family. Then an old cockerel takes the little chick under his wing, saving her from a buzzard attack and showing that friendship can be found in the most unlikely places. Helen Peters taps into a full range of emotions, including sadness, but always ending on a high note. This book is a little longer than the fiction that we've mentioned so far for Year 3, and it's a good choice for children developing confidence with a little more reading stamina. It's the 18th story in this delightful series, so there are plenty more to recommend to animal story fans. I have to admit that, not being a football enthusiast, World Football Winners is the first book that I've read in the Unbelievable Football series by Matt Oldfield. It's illustrated by Daniel Duncan and published by Wren & Rook, and I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed it. The book contains 3 short stories interspersed with halftime football trivia. The 3 stories in this collection include a surprising story about the Women's World Cup, when the US team took their own cooks along and shared their nutritious food with their Swedish competitors before going on to win the cup. The second story is about the Street Child World Cup, and the third is about Maradona's infamous goal when he tapped the ball into the net with his hand. This series is a must for young football fans. Finally, we're taking a look at Harriet Evans' How Things Grow. This chunky board format shouldn't be mistaken as a book for younger readers. The board format allows for sturdy movables such as wheels and flaps. It contains a lot of scientific language, but there's also a lot of information conveyed through illustration. As such, it's a good book for children to share with an adult or friends, and one that they can return to each time, building on their knowledge with each rereading. Circle of Life, How Things Grow by Harriet Evans, illustrated by Benjamin Flew, is a very chunky book. And this is so that you can have a very sturdy use of movables within the book. It features the life cycles of insects, plants, amphibians, birds, reptiles, fish, and, of course, mammals. And the USP of this book is the way that it's used movables to illustrate the life cycle, in particular the use of wheels. So here on the insect page, I'm just looking at a section, and when I turn the wheel, I can see that it begins as an egg, and then number 2, it hatches into a caterpillar, number 3, the pupa, or as it's called with a caterpillar, the chrysalis, and number 4, the butterfly here. There are flaps that show different aspects here, the body parts of the... So if we look down here, at the top of the next page, we can see the body parts of the insect, the main characteristics there. And when we lift up, we get some additional information about insects' antennae, their jointed legs, and their exoskeleton. So that rounds up this selection. I hope you found this useful and that you'll join me again in July when I'll be presenting the collections for the new academic year. If you'd like to find out more about the reading journey, we're offering schools a month's free trial this summer. Please get in touch with assistant@justimagine.co.uk and we can set you up. Please note that the reading journey is only available to verified schools in the UK and internationally. It's not available to individuals or to other companies. Until the next time, have a great term. See you then.